Hello, I'm Kate Smurthwaite and I'm what's known as a female comedian. So I thought for this week's News at Kate, it might be a good idea to talk about the Dispatches documentary that's just come out about Russell Brand. And full disclosure, I'm away in Greece, I haven't seen it. But nonetheless, here are some things I need to say. First of all, yeah, we all knew. In fact, if you are somebody who worked in comedy and you didn't know about it, then you're evidently someone that people didn't feel very comfortable discussing these kind of things around. And if you think that you've created a safe place around your club or whatever where people can tell you about these kind of things and you didn't even know about Russell Brand, then I'm afraid you have not succeeded in creating a safe space. You need to put your back into it because there's Russell and there's a lot more. Secondly, I've seen lots of people defending him, the usual, alt-right douche bros, great. And the message seems to be, they wanted him closed down because he's a menace to the government. I mean, if you really are looking for comedians who are constantly criticising the government and pointing out their hypocrisy and the lies and the dangerous and nasty, horrendous things that they're doing, you're on that channel now. And I'm not the only comedian who spends a lot of their time talking about the government and the appalling things that they do and the appalling things they get away with and the need to sort that out. Russell Brand's content wasn't even really very coherent in that respect. There was a lot of conspiracy theories, not very much in the way of fact, and it was all blended in with this sort of wellness stuff and all sorts of other sort of new age stuff. And if that's what you enjoyed, I'm not saying it wasn't the content that you were looking for, but to suggest that he was a direct and present menace to the government because of his truth-seeking ideas, I mean, I'm sorry, if you want people to speak truth to power and criticise the Tory government, you can just stay here, it's fine. Thirdly, yes, like every other woman I know in comedy, yes, Dispatches did contact me. They contacted, it's years of investigation they've done. They contacted every woman I know in comedy, and they didn't ask, do you know anything about Russell Brand? They asked, tell us about men in the comedy industry, other comedians, promoters, agents, who is there? Have you ever been harassed or assaulted or raped? Do you know about other women who have? And I think most people, I replied, yes. There's some people who I was sort of happy to share the names, and there are others where I was like, I'm really uncomfortable talking about this unless there are other people who've raised the same names and blah, blah, blah. I could probably personally, from my own experience, name 15 to 20 people who have behaved inappropriately with me. And if I then included other women in comedy and the stories that they've told me, we could easily get that to 100 to 150. And I know that many of those women sent information to Dispatches. So I think it's sort of heartbreaking, really, that after all that bravery in saying stuff, the whole programme focuses on one individual. And that's the heartbreak of these things, isn't it? Is that they'll only pick the one that's high profile, the one that, and in a way, it does make it a conspiracy theory against Russell Brand because there are so many others. And I know some people will say, well, tell us the other names and whatever, but no, I've done it before. I've told people many of these names before. I've described these incidents and people don't hear me, they don't believe me, they say, that's a very serious allegation, I hope you've taken it to the police, and ultimately I lose work, and I can't do that over and over and over again. We have to build a different culture. It's not my job as a victim of these things to speak out about these things. It is the job of us as a society to build a better culture where we can speak out about these things and where our work is supported and so on and so forth. And it's also the job of us as a culture to build an environment in which these things don't happen in the first place, because you shouldn't be asking female comedians to name names. You should be asking male comedians to own up to the awful things they've done, and also, other promoters and agents and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there is a lot more to do. We are nowhere near scratching the surface of it, and I think it's kind of sad that the documentary makers just decided to focus on one high-profile case and make a big song and dance about it, because it plays into this entirely false narrative that this is about a tiny number of bad apples, but it's not. It's about an industry-wide problem, and I do not for 1 second believe that comedy is the only industry that is riddled with people with problematic behaviour. There may be reasons why there's increased susceptibility, people tend to be freelance, they don't have contracts, they don't have an HR department, people maybe tend to be travelling up and down the country, working with different people, often on your own, yes, but other industries I've worked in, exactly the same problem. And in fact, even worse when it's right in the office and everybody can see it and still nobody is doing anything about it. Even worse when you go to human resources and they tell you that it's your problem and you need to sort it out. And I've had those experiences too. This is not a problem that's about Russell Brand. This is a problem that's about the way that men and women interact in our society, and it needs to be addressed at that level, not, I'm afraid to say, at the let's have a debate about whether Russell Brand did it or not. He totally did it, and so did so many other people. See you next week. Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.